Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome along to the Shire of Derby West Kimberley meeting. My name's Jeff Gooding. I'm the Commissioner, and I'll go through some of those details in a few moments. So it's 5:30, and I'll declare this meeting of the Derby West Kimberley Shire Commissioner declare it open. And can I announce the visitors that we have in the room? We have CEO Tamara Clarkson next to me. We have Director Infrastructure Wayne Neat. We have Acting Director Community Planning Luke Lawrence. We have Executive Assistant to the CEO Ryan Balderson. And we have four, I thought we had five, but we have four community members that are in attendance. We have 5 community members in attendance. Thanks very much for coming along. Okay, I'll move on to item 2. This meeting will be video recorded and live streamed on the Shire's YouTube channel, with the exception of confidential items and periods of adjournment as determined by the presiding member. In this case, that's me. By being present at this meeting, members of the public consent to the possibility that their voice and/or image may be live streamed to the public. Recordings will also be made available on the Shire's YouTube channel and website following the meeting. The official record of the meeting will be the written minutes kept in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995 and any relevant regulations. Okay, moving on to item 3, which is an acknowledgement of country. In the spirit of reconciliation, the Shire of Derby West Kimberley acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout the Shire and the continued connection to the land, waters and community. The Shire of Derby West Kimberley would like to pay our respects to the people, the cultures and the elders past and present, and the continuation of cultural, spiritual and educational practices of Aboriginal people. That's a continuing acknowledgement, and can I add my voice to that acknowledgement, please? Item 4, attendance via telephone or other instantaneous communications. We have none, as I understand it, so we'll record nil. Announcements by the presiding person without discussion. This is a fairly unique sort of meeting, so I do have a statement that I'd like to go through so that particularly people on the live stream or those present can understand the context around which I'm sitting in this chair. So my name's Jeff Gooding and I'm the appointed Commissioner for the Shire of Derby West Kimberley. For the record, I was appointed to this role by His Excellency the Governor of Western Australia with effect from the 18th of April 2025. I took up duties in Derby on the next working day available to me, which was Tuesday of this week. I'm determined to continue a stable and effective local government process. So on this, my 3rd day of being in the job, we're holding the meeting of Council that was originally planned and publicly advertised. My appointment as Commissioner was made under the Local Government Act, specifically sections 237 and 238. As Commissioner, I now hold all the powers and functions of the Council and am regarded as being the Council in its entirety. I will be adopting a practical approach, particularly around the regulatory and legislative requirements that prescribe the composition of committees, working groups and similar bodies. There'll only be one of me. You will see that tonight when we get to an item later in the agenda about the Shire's Audit and Risk Committee membership. In those roles and when facing my responsibilities, I will be guided by those with expertise in a particular subject area, including but not limited to the Shire CEO, the Executive Leadership Team, the West Australian Local Government Association, WOLGA, and the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries, DLGSC. I will also seek out advice from our community because I don't want to lose sight that those are the most impacted by the business of local government, and they have expertise and experience that's often the most relevant. As I've indicated already in my first Commissioner's update, published on the Shire's website and delivered via mail, old-fashioned mail, to residents initially in Derby, I invite residents to make contact with me. Should there be matters that you wish to discuss, I think, and I've spoken to a range of people already, to the residents of Fitzroy Crossing, I'm hoping are on the live stream. I'm looking forward to getting to Fitzroy Crossing soon. For those present tonight, you may want to know a little bit more about me and my role as Commissioner. A copy of my update is available here tonight for you to have a read through. As we settle into this new way of operating that will last until October this year, I hope we all recognise that we're all on a learning curve in how we operate with a Commissioner rather than a full council. I'll try to do my best to promote integrity and good governance in all that I do, and I also regard consistency as an important value. In that respect, I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly reiterate some of the themes that I've been promoting in my conversations with community members, leaders and staff. Firstly, I recognise that there are obviously issues in the community that have precipitated the decisions that the Minister has taken in respect to the elected council. It's not my intention to overly focus on those matters. Obviously, I will often need to consider background and consult in relation to current issues, effectively to better understand how we got to where we are. But my priority will be to look forward. Wherever I can, I will be doing that. This leads me to my second focus. I've only got 6 months in this role, and a core function is to prepare the Shire for fresh elections in October. I'd like to work with the Shire staff and the community on some forward planning that draws on any relevant work that's already been done in the community and provides some mid-term clarity about community objectives. That work will also involve looking closely at Shire assets and forward resourcing. That is, where do we want to be as a community in 4 to 5 years' time, and what are the sustainability plans that we're going to need to get there? Some community forward planning and local government asset management planning will be priority outcomes that I'd like to help put in place by the end of my period with the Shire. My view is that those two pieces of interconnected work will place an incoming council in the best position to take the community forward. Thirdly, I'd like to signal that in all that I do, I'd like to always be evidence-driven. That said, as long I am a long-term Kimberley resident, I acknowledge that there's not always the sound evidence base that we can draw on. I'll be striving to use whatever sound evidence is available as a basis for well-considered decision-making. Finally, I'd like to make 2 initial observations. Bear in mind I've been here 3 days. Firstly, it's about our people. Having met with the majority of the Shire staff in the last few days, I am taken by their dedicated and professional approach. From the CEO, her leadership team, to the wider Shire workforce, there's a solid basis for good governance and effective service delivery. My thanks for the open and enthusiastic way they have welcomed me to my new role. We will work well together. The second observation is in relation to the previous council. To the previous elected council, many of whom I've met or had conversations with, thank you for the positive way you've all welcomed me to this local government role that I'm undertaking. And I'd like to take this public opportunity to thank you all for stepping into elected roles when you did so to contribute to your community. So with those announcements, and with a high degree of optimism, I'm going to proceed with the agenda. So that's announcements from the presiding person. Disclosure of interests. Item 6.1, declaration of financial interests. I have nil. 6.2, declaration of proximity interests. I have nil. Item 6.3, declaration of impartiality interests. I do have one, and it's from myself. And for transparency principles, I declare that I'll have an impartiality interest because I'm a councillor on the Shire of Wyndham East Kimberley. Item 7, applications for leave of absence. I have nil. This is a standard agenda, by the way, so there are some items that will be consistent on every meeting. Item 8, responses to previous public questions taken on notice. I have nil. So we now move into item 9, which is some time for the public. So 9.1 is public question time. So I wonder whether there is anybody in the public that has questions that they would like to ask of me. Now's your opportunity.
Jeff Hideaway, ratepayer, former councillor. Commissioner, it's just a question that's been bugging me for a long, long time. The question is, does the council have a financial plan to get us out of the financial difficulty we're in? And when can we expect that plan? I take it you only been here 3 days. When can we expect that plan to be rolled out to the ratepayers of this community?
Right. So my response really is that 3 days in, you, as you acknowledge, are unlikely to have a financial plan in place. I accept and know that there are financial matters that we will need to take a long-term view to and will need to progress. Many of those matters are already within the consideration of the Shire CEO. We will both be working on a plan going forward. At this point, I think it would be unwise to commit an actual date to answer your question. However, I will make a strong commitment that this is a priority matter for me, that I will need to work through, and I will need to take some advice on from experts, both internally and externally, and we're already engaged with some of those people. Is there anything that CEO would like to add?
Through the chair, no thank you.
Okay, thanks for the question.
Sorry, I've got another question. That one is about the audit committee that's in the agenda here. As per Local Government Act, is there going to be a public person there as well, preferably a ratepayer?
So in terms of the Local Government Act requirements, I might ask the CEO to respond. I'll come back in though.
Through the chair, the legislation is changing and there will be a requirement for an independent chair of the Audit and Risk Committee. This will be sought from members of the community via an expressions of interest process, and there will be requirements that must be met before that person can be elected as the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee. Another change is that it will be called, there will be other changes to the committee composition and requirements that will be introduced in the legislation from the 1st of July of this year.
So, and I'll just add to that, that you'll see later in the agenda, in your papers there, that in the meantime, I'll run the Audit and Risk Committee until the legislation changes and we need to restructure it. So we've got another one.
Sorry, I'll roll these questions out over a period of time. I know it's your third day. The third one and the last question is quite simply, you know what, I'm not going to ask it at this meeting. I'll ask it in a future meeting.
Okay. And let me make a general comment about questions. Happy to be contacted independently as well. My contact details are on the screen that you've got in front of you if you'd like to run something else past me. Any further questions from the public? Okay, well, thanks for that. Let's move on. Item 9.2, public statements. I have nil. Item 10, petitions, deputations, presentations and submissions. I have nil. Item 11, confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. So the previous meeting was held on the 27th of February. I wasn't at that meeting. However, we have inquired into my ability to pass minutes that I wasn't at. The requirement is that so long as the minutes are attested to be accurate, I have that power. So I'm going to formally ask the CEO to confirm the accuracy of those minutes, please.
Through the chair, yes, that is an accurate record of proceedings.
Thanks. So on that basis, I'm going to move the recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held at the council chambers, Clarendon Street, Derby, on the 27th of February 2025 be confirmed. As there's only one person that's voting here tonight, I declare that carried 1-0. You might see that a bit coming up. Okay, moving forward, reports. Item 12, corporate services, and particularly 12.1, the mid-year budget review. So this item is on the agenda to consider the Shire's financial position as at the 28th of February 2025, including the mid-year budget review, and for the performance for the period 1 July to 28 February in relation to the annual budget that had been adopted and the estimated revenue and expenditure for the remainder of the financial year. There has been a process undertaken to ensure by staff to ensure the accuracy of the data. What I am, bear in mind this is a rearward-facing report. What I'm faced with is amending the approved budget based on the performance up to the end of 28th of February, which is what this item's about. So I'm going to now ask the Shire CEO what key amendments are there that are worth highlighting, and then we'll go on from there.
Thank you, Chair. The number one point to identify within the report is that the impact of AGRN 1044 flood recovery continues to be reflected in the financial position of the Shire. This is due to the fact that it is unknown when those funds will be received from expenditure that has occurred throughout the last number of financial years. With regards to the budget amendments for the adopted annual budget, there has been a saving in employee costs. There's been a reduction of approximately $3.3 million, which is a movement in the grants for the Orphan Road project. The Lord Mayor's Distress Relief Fund, Homemakers and the recovery expenditure has some movements that are important to note. The financial assistance grants were received in the June 2024, which is the previous financial year. And we've also reduced the capital expense by $5 million for a proposed housing project that will not occur this financial year.
Okay. So they're all important things. Are the implications of those matters that you've highlighted going to be taken account of in the preparation of the 25-26 budget?
Through the chair, yes, they will.
Yeah.
I'll add that ongoing advice that we are liaising with the Department of Local Government and More Australia, who assist us in preparing our financials, means that this is reviewed regularly and to ensure that we have an accurate end-of-year position.
Okay. Well then, and then for the record, can you confirm that the budget preparation process is advancing?
Yes, it is.
Right. Okay. So on that basis, this is consideration of the performance up to that period. I'm going to move the recommendation that Council Commissioner by absolute majority notes the Shire of Derby West Kimberley Budget Review Report for the period 28 February as attached, and approves budget amendments to the 24-25 adopted annual budget as contained in the Shire of Derby West Kimberley Budget Review Report for the period ended 28 February with predicted variances. So I'm moving that, and I'm declaring that motion is carried 1-0. .2 accounts for payment in February 2025. So this item is essentially about council receiving a list of accounts that have been paid under delegated authority. Much of this, of course, has happened preceding me being here, but I'm going to ask the CEO whether there are any comments or particularly significant payments that you'd like to highlight.
Through the chair, nothing to add. Any payments that have been made have been processed through finance and executive for their comment, and responsible spending has been one of the priorities of the organisation.
Okay. All right. So I'll move the recommendation that Council Commissioner notes the list of accounts for February 2025 paid under delegated authority in accordance with Regulation 13(1) of the Local Government Financial Management Regulations 1996, attached to this report, totalling $2,100,887.01. I'm so glad the 1 cent's there. I'll move that recommendation and declare it carried 1-0. Moving on to item 12.3, Statement of Financial Activity, February 2025. So this report provides a summary of Council's financial position for the period ended 28 February 2025 and the range of processes that are involved within that. I note that there's been consultation with More Australia, and they've both created and helped populate the template. CEO, is there anything that needs to be added for my consideration at this point?
Through the chair, I will just comment that the priorities identified in the monthly report as follows on page 45. The capital expenditure allocations are an ongoing review process that occurs with finance and in consultation with More Australia to ensure that it is accurate for year end. The sundry debtors outstanding, there are 2 large outstanding debt that had come before the previous council for discussion and will again come in the future. The finance department undertake regular debt recovery processes, and it has been reduced significantly throughout this year. And the final one is the funding statements opening surplus. This is part of an ongoing budget review. So at the time of this report, end of 28th of February, when we were also finalising the budget review process, was not representative of the position that we're in at the moment. However, by 30 June, that it will be an accurate representation of the financial situation of the Shire.
Thank you. And look, I note that I'm about to meet with More separately on a range of these issues. Okay, on that basis, I'm happy to move the recommendation that the Council Commission receives the monthly financial management reports incorporating the Statement of Financial Activity for the period ending 28 February 2025 and declare that that resolution is passed 1-0. Moving on to item 13, Executive Services and appointment of Commissioner to the Audit and Risk Committee. And just circling back to the question we had earlier, this is where this takes effect. So, Shire of, as we know, the Shire of WS Kimberley has an Audit and Risk Committee, and that normally comprises 5 council members, with all 9 positions currently being vacated and a commissioner being appointed. It's necessary for the commissioner to be appointed to the committee for its function. And I note the CEO's comment about the procedure will be changing in July 1. So up until that point, there is a necessity for an appointment, for me to be appointed to the Audit and Risk Committee. So the recommendation is that the Council Commission appoint Jeff Gooding as member of the Audit and Risk Committee until the ordinary local government election in October 2025, or such time that the President and councillors are appointed. We've picked that date. We've picked that date in case the implementation after July 1 takes a while. So I will move that recommendation and declare that carried 1-0. Amendment to the Delegation of Authority 11.22, which is about deferring grant discounts and waiving or writing off debts. So there's an annual review happens around the delegations, that we have a delegations register, and that's identified an opportunity to provide clarity with some of the existing delegations, but particularly one small amendment to an existing delegation is both timely and prudent, and that's outlined there. So this effectively is an item that tightens a bit of our governance procedure up. So is there anything you wanted to add to this, CEO?
Through the chair, I would just like to comment, for those people in the room, the agenda would have been printed in black and white, and so the inclusion of point 4 and 5 under function is the inclusion. That on my copy is in a different colour that you won't see, and that is just to ensure that clarity in wording. And then there's also conditions D and E and F that have been added to ensure that it's clear.
So what you won't see there is it highlighted in green is that this is limited to $1,000.
Yes.
So it's a small delegation. Okay, thanks for that clarity. And I'm sorry you didn't get a coloured version, by the way. We might use a highlight pen or something next time.
Yeah.
Okay, so the recommendation is that the Council Commissioner by absolute majority adopts the Shire of WS Kimberley Delegation of Authority 1.1.22, defer grant discounts, waive or write off debts. I'll move that recommendation and declare that carried 1-0. Item 14.1, award of tender 208-2425 Derby Airport Road Rehabilitation Works. I note that we have some interested people in the audience. So this is about council awarding a tender by that number that I've just read out, being the contract works required to undertake the rehabilitations of the Derby Airport Road and internal roads and car parks. Having spent a bit of time on that road yesterday, it seems like it's wholly justifiable that we do some of that work. Thanks for taking me out and showing me that, CEO. Those improvements are clearly going to benefit ambulance patients going to RFDS, using the RFDS on that road. It's a pretty poor, the tarmac's pretty poorly deteriorated. So I see some good justification for those works. So I also note that Buckley's Earthworks and Paving Proprietary Limited have demonstrated in the past that they're capable of achieving satisfactory results in the delivery of sealed roads and have completed many projects for the Shire. I also understand that there's been good consideration of the contract rates and as well as the tender performance in a confidential attachment to the agenda, which I have been through. So just briefly ask the CEO if there's anything further to add.
Through the Chair, Director Infrastructure, do you have anything to add?
No, I think this project's fairly important, as you've seen, and the funding, we need to use that funding by the 30th of June this year because it's LRCI funding. So it's prudent that we move forward in this project and get it completed as soon as possible.
Okay, thanks for that. Anything that either of you would like to comment on in terms of where you plan to source the funds from?
Through the Chair again, the funds are sourced from, just get me back to the...
Some savings on another road, but...
Yeah, so, Derby Airport Road, LRCI, there's $550,000 allocated from there, and we are removing or taking $30,000 from Rowan Street Capital Works, which is RCO 37, and shifting that in there to allow this work to occur. Rowan Street we feel will come under budget, and in the next agenda item there's further savings made there that we can shift some money around as well.
That seems sensible. All right, so thanks for that. On the basis of those responses, I'll move the recommendation that Council Brackett's Commissioner, by absolute majority, awards tender 208-2 2024-25 Derby Airport Road Rehabilitation Works to Buckley's Earthworks and Paving Proprietary Limited, and approve the reallocation of $30,000 from RC 037 Rowan Street Works to account 41206992 Derby Airport Road Repairs and Improvement Works. I declare that motion carried 1-0. Next item is 14.2, again an award of tender. So it's award of tender T14 24-25, various road and verge remediations, Derby. This is contract works required to undertake rehabilitation works to the roads and verges of Wodehouse Street, Elders Street. Excuse me, I just have Elders Street and Hardman Street. It's proposed that the tender be awarded to Buckley's Earthworks and Paving Proprietary Limited, brackets BEP. And I note in the assessment that BEP have demonstrated in the past that they are more than capable of achieving good results in the delivery of sealed roads and have completed many projects for the Shire in the past several years. Either CEO or Director want to make any comments, or are comfortable with the information that's available?
Through the Chair, nothing to add, thank you.
Okay. All right, well, I'll move the recommendation that the Council, brackets Commissioner, award tender T14-24-25 various road and verge remediations to Buckley's Earthworks and Paving Proprietary Limited. And I'll declare that motion carried 1-0. Item 15.1, Community Development Grant Assessments and Decision-Making Process. So this is another item that's come forward to me because the previous process for assessing community grants required the use of a subgroup and multiple councillors. which effectively means that we need to change that process going forward. The subgroup of council is clearly not practical in the short term. I see that that Shire staff have considered a range of options. The first option, that all funding applications referred to council, I agree that's unlikely to be timely. Option 2, a committee of council be established. Not a lot of point in having a committee of one. So I think that's probably not practical. The other option, so first one's not timely, the second one's not practical, but the third one that brings practicality and timeliness together is a delegation to the CEO. So that does seem like a logical and sensible way forward, particularly in the short term when we are a bit constrained with the number of people that we have here. So the recommendation is that Council Commissioner, by absolute majority, delegates the determination of community grant applications to the Chief Executive Officer. Before I move that, presumably that delegation gets added to our delegations register and becomes a new delegation, is that right?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay. All right. Having moved that recommendation, I declare it carried 1-0. So moving on to item 16, new business of an urgent nature, I have nil. Item 17, matters for which the meeting may be closed, i.e. confidential matters, I have nil. And we move to the date of a range of matters around closure of the meeting, but to the date of the next meeting, next ordinary meeting of council with myself as Commissioner will be held at 11 a.m. on Thursday, the 22nd of May 2025 at the Garriearly Adult Education Centre in Fitzroy Crossing. So any Fitzroy people online, the next council meeting will be 22nd of May in Fitzroy. I encourage you to come along and...
The dates have changed.
22nd. So there has been good point, and thanks. There has been a necessity to change a few of the dates, and we're working through that now. We will advise publicly the community about that. This comes as a result of me not being able to be everywhere at once. So this one is a slightly changed date. It's been brought forward a week, as I recall. And there will be a couple of others later in the year that we'll need to modify as well. But we'll provide good advice about that. So, look, before I close the meeting, there's a couple of acknowledgements that I'd like to make. So I'd like to acknowledge the staff, and particularly CEO Tamara Clarkson, who have worked over Easter to ensure that I could be supported to hold a council meeting, as planned 3 days after I've taken up duties as a Commissioner. So, Tamara, thank you. I particularly note the commitment of Wayne Neat, Director of Infrastructure, who's attended council here tonight whilst he's on leave to ensure that I was supported. Thanks very much, Wayne. To Acting Director Luke Lawrence, who's worked over Easter preparing for a cyclone response that luckily didn't turn out to be what we thought it might be, but you were prepared, and thanks for that commitment. And to my left, here to Ryan Balderston, who has worked pretty tirelessly to get me into the IT system quickly and seamlessly. So thanks very much to those people. Thanks to the members of the community that have come along here tonight, and the former elected members for attending or tuning in, and for those people that have asked questions. I look forward to working with you all. I remind people about Anzac Day tomorrow and the remembrance ceremonies that are being held both in Derby and in Fitzroy Crossing. Any members of the community here tonight, if you'd like to stay on and have a cup of tea and a bit of a chat, I'd really welcome that. If you've got to go, that's cool too. So I might close my first meeting. Thanks all for attending. Meeting closed at 6:09. Thanks very much, and thanks for people online.